Hello ladies and gentlemen, in this video I'm going to show you how to convert a CSV file into a JSON file using Python. Before we begin, I want to give you a little bit of background. The reason I want to do this is because the JSON format would be a little bit easier to read for an application that I'm creating. The data that I'm going to convert is this happy DB, which describes itself as a collection of 100,000 happy moments. And if you scroll down on their website, you can get some samples of the happy moments in this database. However, the database comes in the form of a CSV file, so you can download it from here, and I've actually already done that. So if I pull this open, I have the database downloaded here, and it comes in a variety of different formats. The format we're going to use is the cleaned HM, which is the database with a little bit of cleanup already done to it. So I'm going to copy that and paste that into this folder here, and I've actually already, before the video, made a smaller version of it which only contains 10 lines so that we can do some testing with it. So I'll open this up in a text editor and we can have a look at the format. And as we can see, it's a typical CSV. The first line is the header line, and then the subsequent lines contain all of the data. So the first thing we need to do is create our Python script file. So I will open a terminal in this folder and create a file called csv2json.py. And I'll open this in a text editor. And just to make sure it works, let's print the word hello. And I'm not sure if this is required, but I've seen most Python scripts seem to have this at the very top of it, so I'm going to add that. Save it. In the terminal, we'll do Python CSV, and it prints out hello, so that means everything's working properly. So now we can implement the algorithm. We're going to need two Python libraries. They're called CSV and JSON. One to let us read the CSV and one to let us write the JSON. And let's do a quick outline of the algorithm here. First thing we want to do is read the CSV, and we want to add the data to a dictionary. And the next thing we want to do is write the data to a JSON file. Now you could pass in the file names as arguments to your Python script, but I'm just going to make them variables, and if the file names ever change, then we'll just have to edit the file. So the first thing I want to do is make a CSV file path, which is going to be equal to small.csv to begin with for testing, and then we'll later switch it to the full-sized one, which is a lot larger. And we also need to have a JSON file path, which is going to be our output file, so we'll name it happy.json. Now, reading a CSV file in Python is very simple. Let's first create a dictionary where we're going to store our data, and then we open the file by writing with open CSV file path as CSV file. And you need to make sure you indent, and then we'll create a CSV reader by calling csv.dictReader and giving the file object that we created. From there we can loop through each row, so we'll say for CSV row in CSV reader. And now we need to take a look at the data itself, and we'll basically be given a dictionary for each row where the keys are these titles of the rows. So what we want to do is get the HMID, which is the ID of each line. So we'll say HMID equals CSV row, and then you give brackets and the name of the property you want to access. And then we'll add that to our data dictionary. And just to make sure everything works, let's stop here and print out data. So I'll save that, clear the console, and run the script again. And it's a little bit hard to read on the console, but it looks like we've got all the data there. So we can move on to step 2 of our algorithm, which is to write to the JSON file, and that's actually even easier than reading the CSV. So we need to do another with open, but in this case it's JSON file path, and you should provide the W argument to indicate that it's being written to. We'll make this as a JSON file. Then we can just say JSON file.write, and we say json.dumps and provide the data that we want to write. So I'll save that, clear that, and let me look at our folder over here. So now when I run the script again, we can see it creates the happy.json file. If I open this up in an editor, we can look, and it's all in one line. That might be okay for you, but you might prefer to have it formatted a little bit so it's easier to read in a text file. And that's easy to do. All you need to do is add an argument to json.dumps and just put, indent equals 4. So save that, run the script again, and open up our file. And now you can see it's formatted. Now there's one last thing I want to do. This is already in a JSON format, so it actually works for me, but the reason I wanted it in JSON format was so that I could import it into a Firebase database. So I've got my Firebase project up here, and here's my database, and what I want it to look like is I wanted to have a root node called happy, and in there I'll have the HMID, and inside of that I'll have all of my data. So I want to make sure that my JSON file is in the correct format because Firebase has an import JSON option. So to make sure it's in the right format, the first thing I'm going to do is export my sample data like this. And I'll come into my downloads folder and open this up. And I can see that the way that it's formatted is it's got outer brackets here, and then the happy node, and then HMID, and so on. So that's almost what we have with our file here. We have the outer brackets, the HMID. The only thing we're missing is the happy node. So that's an easy thing to fix. We can add another line here. We'll say add data to a root node, and we'll create a new dictionary called root, and we'll just set root happy equal to data. So now all of that data will be enclosed in a happy property. And then instead of writing json.dumps data, we'll do json.dumps root, save that, and run the script again. Now when we open up happy.json, we can see we now have the format with the outer brackets, then happy, then the HMID. And just to test it, let's try importing that into Firebase. So I'll click Browse here and choose happy.json, open and import, and it looks like there is all of our data. So the only thing left to do now is to switch the file name to the large one that contains all the data. So this is called cleanedhm.csv. I'll save that, run the script one more time, and it may take a little while to finish. Looks like it has just finished. It's a 53.9 megabyte file. So now I'll import that into Firebase. And I won't sit here and let it load, but it's basically going to give me all my data. And this is in the format that I want for the application I'm planning to make. Thanks for watching the video.